It's that time of year when many of us, yes, me included, we love to sit around a campfire and tell stories. And if you don't have a campfire, you're in a burn ban, as we are in Texas, then maybe you're sitting on the porch, talking for hours, sharing stories. Well, today we're going to talk about one story that forever changed someone's life and what we can all learn from it. Do you have a not so perfect life? I mean, we may look like we have it all together, but the truth is we all have stuff. unBOOlievable provides a brave space where we women can take off the mask, share our secret struggles, and our secrets to success. unBOOlievable, doing life better together. At unBOOlievable, we are a brave, supportive community for women and girls who want to take action and create change. And we are about to roll out something really exciting, which is some learning and development opportunities, because we realize that to take action and create change, you need some tools. So stay tuned for that in the coming up months. But I want you to think for a minute about the last time you heard a scary story. What I love to hate about scary stories is that oftentimes you know something scary is coming. There's going to be a plot twist, or if you're watching a scary story, something's going to jump out at you. And as much as we know it's coming, it's like this thrill of adrenaline waiting for it. And then sometimes it happens and you're like, that wasn't so bad. But other times something comes out and it causes you to scream and completely change the narrative. I want you to think for a minute about the last story you told yourself. Yes, we are talking to ourselves all the time, and we are also listening to ourselves all the time. The last scary story I told myself was that if I stood for faith in unBOOlievable, that it could turn people off. Yep, I was worried about people pleasing. And if you notice, if you watched season 1 of our TV series, you may have noticed that never once did I talk about faith. I asked people about their faith, but I didn't talk about my faith, quote unquote, being the good reporter, the good talk show host. But I've recently realized that that was not a good move for me. It may be appropriate as a talk show host and a TV personality to not have opinions and to not share them. But unBOOlievable is based on authenticity and vulnerability. And sometimes that authenticity and vulnerability comes in the form of sharing things that are important to us, like my faith. Let me give you a different example. Last week, I had a friend of mine share with me about something super close to her heart that she was so passionate about. And it had been causing her anxiety. It's a specific cause that's close to her heart. And when she shared with me, I was like, thank you so much for sharing. And in fact, I'm in media and I'm wondering if I can use media to help share the light on this cause. And she was blown away. She said, here, I thought you were going to judge me. I thought maybe that it was going to put a barrier between us because I didn't know where you stood on it. It doesn't matter where I stand on something important to her. If it's important to her and she's important to me, I want to understand that. But how often do we try to please others, often leaving out crucial parts of our stories? Next year, 2024, I'm going to be offering some opportunities for people to learn how to tell their stories and then giving them platforms to do that. And in doing this work, I have met so many men and women who say, Janeé, there are parts of my story I just can't talk about. And that's okay. Sometimes that's wisdom and discernment. But other times we are afraid to talk about parts of our stories because we are worried about what others would think of us. Over the weekend, I shared a super vulnerable part of my story with my husband. And you may think it's your husband, Janeé. He's been married to you 10 years. He probably knows the story. And what I'm about to share with you, you shouldn't have to do with your husband. Not true. What I did with my husband, I physically held my hands up as if I was going to give him something. And I said, I'm going to give you a gift of me being vulnerable in a really painful area. I'm going to give you this gift. And I'm just asking that you recognize it as a valuable gift and you hold it gently in your heart. That changed the whole trajectory of our conversation because I teed it up for him. I let him know exactly the magnitude of what I was about to share with him as it relates to me and my heart. Was it a big deal to him? Probably not. But by teeing it up for him, I set the receiver up to receive my gift of vulnerability in an appropriate way. You may be wondering why at Unbroken, we are so big on authenticity and vulnerability. And the answer is pretty simple. We can't heal it unless we reveal it. It doesn't matter what it is. If we're struggling in our business, if you're not willing to reveal the real struggle, I can't help you as a consultant. If you're struggling health-wise, if you're not willing to reveal all of your symptoms and all of your health habits, the doctor can't help you heal it. So why are we so afraid of authenticity and vulnerability? And I believe that's because the story we're telling ourselves about how others will receive it. But for me, as I am learning present tense, I don't have it figured out yet. When we compartmentalize those places in our lives, we miss the gift of sharing our whole human self with someone. Now, if there are stories that involve others, I would suggest you get their permission before you share, even when you're sharing without using their names. I've done that today in the stories that I've shared. And the reason for that is life is hard enough. If other people are involved in your story, let them be the one to give you permission to share it or share it themselves. But I think it's so hard to be authentic and vulnerable because oftentimes we want to be all things to all people. And when we give people the gift of standing in who we truly are, then we are doing our part. The outcome, that's not what we're responsible for. So you are going to be hearing more faith from me. And it's not because I want to throw Jesus down your throat, simply because at Unbroken, we believe in doing life better together. And that means hearing others' perspectives, getting insights, wisdom, knowledge from one another. And I have found that the most wisdom, insight, and knowledge we can get from one another is not what we already know. So sometimes at Unbroken, you're going to hear things that maybe don't resonate with you. That's okay. Look for the ways we connect. What are the points that do resonate with you, that do relate to you? Galen is my cohort in crime in Unbroken. And while we are similar in many ways, we are also very different in a lot of ways. And the beauty in our friendship is that we are different. You've heard me say this before. If you're running with people who look like you, act like you, sound like you, and that's the only group you run with, wow, you're missing out on a lot. Because the more we can be around people who aren't like us, the more we can hear different perspectives, different experiences, and learn from them. So today, 2 simple things to take away. Number 1, what is important to you? And how are you sharing that with the world? Think about it. And sometimes the way to think about a big question like that is to think about what is important to you that you're not sharing with the world and why. If it's because it's something close to your heart, you don't feel released or permission to share it yet, that's okay. But if it's because you're afraid of what others would think, then my challenge for you is to give the gift of being open and vulnerable. You don't have to do it on a podcast, but give that gift with a trusted human. The second thing, look for ways to connect with people who are not like you. Next year with Unbroken, we are rolling out some very specific squads via virtual events. And then we've also got some in-person events coming up. And we purposefully want people to connect with people who aren't like them, because that's where the real work lies. It is coming up on Halloween, which is known for scary things and creepy things. And I think as much as Halloween is an illustration of that, many of us live our lives in scary stories that we don't have to be trapped in. And how do we get untrapped? By sharing those authentic, vulnerable parts with another trusted human. Thanks for tuning in today to Unbroken, where we're doing life better together.
If you like what you're hearing, please share this with a friend. And follow me at Real Janeé Hill on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube.